Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. It is Tuesday, July 15th. We'll start our meeting with a roll call of our City Council.
Council members Rolfing.
Present.
Staggers.
Present.
Anderson.
Here.
Erickson. Here. Erpenbach. Here. Jamison.
Here.
Karski.
Here.
Kiley.
Here.
Thank you very much. We will start our meeting with an invocation like we always do. Councilor Erpenbach has been kind enough to lead us in that invocation tonight. What we'd ask you to do is to stand and then remain standing after Councilor Erpenbach is finished, and then we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor, thank you.
It's my pleasure. Will you bow your head as I pray? Dear wise and loving Creator, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of health we need to fulfill our callings, for sustenance and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in peaceful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thanks as well for the freedom to embrace you or the freedom to reject you. Thank you for loving us, even so, from your boundless and gracious nature. In scriptures, you've said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, since you have established those very authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular for my colleagues and me on this assembled council. I'm asking that you would graciously grant all of us wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in our lives, and joy in our task. I pray for the agenda set before us today. Please give us an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Sioux Falls. It is in your most blessed name that I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilor Erpenbach, again, thank you for that. We certainly appreciate it. We'll now move on with our consent agenda. Council, any motions or changes to the agenda?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second. Jamison.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve our consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Jamison. Is there any discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. We'll now move on to our regular agenda. Council, any motions or changes?
Move for approval, Anderson. Second, Rolfing.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve our agenda tonight, seconded by Councilor Rolfing. If there is no discussion on roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson. Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski. Kiley.
Yes.
Thank you. That is also passed 8-0. Again, a hearty good evening to you. Welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. This is actually an opportunity for you to engage the council. If there's a topic you'd like to discuss that's not on the agenda later on, this is a great time to do it. Just come forward, introduce yourself to the people of our town, and the council would ask you to just limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. Again, welcome.
My name is Dan Daly. I'm a citizen of Sioux Falls. I have a corporation, Contourcom LLC. My background is civil and mechanical engineering, real estate, and registered land surveyor. I have a few comments I'd like to state about the event center. I did my own review. I'm not a paid consultant, therefore my opinion is but my opinion. It doesn't have to be accepted. I'd like to start with slide number 1.
Mr. Daly, is Mr. Daly's microphone on?
Test.
There you go.
Can you hear it?
Is it on? Very good. Mr. Daly, just stand a little closer. We want to make
All
sure
right.
everybody hears you.
We're showing a sort of a staircase bulge in the event center there. and it's apparently obvious. It seems more obvious at sunset. We can go to slide 2. It's south side, that's another part of the staircase bulge. And then slide number 3. That would be turned, there you go. Thank you. There is a staining there that's occurring, and it's a rust color. It's hard to see because the light isn't proper, but it's rather obvious. Next slide. There's wrinkles in the vertical panels. Seemed obvious. When you look down the sidewall, it's very obvious. Slide number 5. This is there's a water gap and panel insertion joint topside where water can enter the building. Needs to be addressed. Number 6, it's a bad caulking job. Seems to be prevalent at all the joints. Number 7, the panel insertion vertical gaps to let water and wind in. Slide number 8. There's 1.5 inch holes for water and ice to enter around window flashing. Next slide. The 12-inch by 1-inch window vertical flashing gaps. Room again for water to enter. Next slide. There's a 2-inch insertion, male edge end view. It's how the panels come together. They're 16-foot panels, 2 inches on either side. And that's all that attaches this. The next slide. The flashing over the windows is reversed, and it will let water in. It's supposed to curb water away from the windows. It'll let it into the walls. The next slide. That's the window flashing. And the next slide. The base, they used a spray foam subject to becoming mold. The way that it's done is not proper, but there could be another method. The next slide. The panel ends don't lay flat. It's supposedly 20-year siding for a 50-year structure, and just doesn't look installed right. The next slide. This is what the panels look like. They're 16 feet long. You can see how they're bent, so they'll come together. And there's 2 inches on either side. Some of the problem is temperature. They could come out, and they tend to come back in a straight pattern when they're curved right now. They've been made to be curved, and they could come out in a straight pattern. The next slide. This is the brochure of the manufacturer. This form of material is meant, this particular material is meant to be installed vertical and not curved. It's the wrong material for this function. There is a roll form that can be used. It's usually used, according to the manufacturer, at entrances, places where water is not such a problem. The next slide. The flashing that's there is meant for a vertical install, not a horizontal install. The way that it is now, water will come in through all those walls on the south side and the east side. It goes straight into some insulation, and no doubt the sheetrock will begin to discolor within a year. There will always be water behind there. There will always be mold. There will be times when you won't be able to use the facility unless you clean out the mold. It's a bad installation. It's a bad. It's intended for a vertical install. It was curved and it shouldn't have been. It was the cheapest way to go. I'd say it's a multi-million-dollar fix. I don't know how much. I would suggest to the council that final payment be postponed pending resolution. Thank you.
Mr. Daly, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And Council, Mr. Daly went 6.5 minutes, but again, he seemed very, very well prepared, so I hope you don't mind that I let him speak a little longer than normal. Mr. Daly, thank you. Appreciate that. Would anybody else like to engage the council? Again, thank you. And Mr. Daly, again, thanks for your comments. We'll now move on to item number 16. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, okay. Please come forward, please.
Sorry, I wasn't quick enough.
Okay.
I'm Kathy Brachtelsbauer.
Hey, could you bring those down? Thank you.
Yeah, entirely different from the last speaker, but I appreciate what he brought to you. And I'm bringing another matter that's entirely different, but also I think of concern, and that's about a proposal to raise the bus fares for South Dakota, for Sioux Falls. And I really appreciate the work of the task force, and I was at the informational last week that you heard the presentation, and obviously they worked very hard and took the challenge that was given to them and were able to accomplish a lot of what they were challenged to do. Some things I think they were not challenged to do, and I think some of those things need to be considered before you raise the bus fare. For example, this wasn't a challenge to take on the environmental impact of our public transportation system, and I appreciate Councilor Erpenbach mentioning the fuel possibility last week, but I think also the matter of the loss of ridership that you get when you raise fares has to do with the environment, and much more needs to be done to get more people riding the bus for the sake of the environment. And then there's also the matter of the effect on low and middle income people in our city, and I think we have to take a closer look at that. And I think they started to, but I think more could be done on that. Raising fares is a serious matter, considering it impacts the livelihoods and the lives of people in our city. And as citizens, we have an obligation to help each other, I think. And prices going up, as were pointed out in the task force, but there's also a matter of incomes not always going up as much as prices have gone up, and having to pay more for your milk and your food and your gasoline just makes it even harder to afford transportation on the bus. If you wanted to ride the bus, you would have less income. So I really also want to mention that the task force has a comparison list on page 13 of a lot of other cities, and it shows the fares that they're charging, but I think it's not really fair to look just at the fares without knowing the different policies that are in place for those transportation systems. For example, if you need to take more than one bus to cross town, in Sioux Falls you have to pay again if you're going just for that day and for that ride. And I saw 2 women on the bus today who were doing just that, having to pay another $1 for the second bus. And but most of the cities on this list don't charge like that. Most of them would give you a transfer if you needed it. Also, the age at which you can ride for free is different in these different towns. Most of them is similar to ours, but for Pocatello, you have to be 9 before you pay a fare. In Fort Collins, you have to be 18 before you have to pay a fare. So there are other policies, and I think also one of my favorites is letting kids ride the bus free in the summer. And quite a number of the towns on this list actually let all the kids ride free all summer. And that's something, of course, that Sioux Falls could do. And I just want to mention that when people are left out by a fare increase in the drop in ridership, those are probably not wealthy people. It's going to affect the lower and middle income people in our city. And I think we could do a lot more to put some more effort into getting the same amount of money using the fares that we have now with stronger efforts. Like one of the things Councilor Rolfing mentioned last week was that he had noticed there are 15,000 workers in downtown. And I think picking up on that, I think it could be a lot of fun to try to promote more workers downtown to ride the bus. And I figured out that you could raise that same, say, upper end, $250,000 that the fare increases are hoping to raise by 2017 by having downtown employers give annual bus passes as a benefit, an employee benefit. And I figured out that you would only need 6 to 7% of those employees getting that benefit, and that in order to raise the $250,000 a year that the fare increase is supposed to raise, according to the task force report. So it seems like a real doable possibility, and that's assuming the city would give them a 10% discount, but it also assumes the current fares, not increased fares. So it's something to work on, and I really think we can work harder on this. There are many needs in our city. Lots of them are being addressed in many ways. As you know, there are lots of food giveaways and other things. But the 211 helpline has said for several years now, the #1 unmet need in Sioux Falls is transportation. And I think we need to put a lot of effort into making sure that our lower income people, folks with needs, have a chance to have the same access that they have now, at least, and not make it worse by raising fares. And I encourage you to put off the decision about raising fares and not do it next month, and to let us have more time to work on this particular matter, and I appreciate that.
Kathy, thank you very much for your time. Would anybody else want to engage the council? Very good. Thank you again. Item number 16, please.
16 is a new 2014-15 retail malt beverage license for Ice Sports Association, Shields Iceplex, 4300 North Bob Holla Avenue, CUP not required, pending final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services. 17 is a new 2014-15 retail malt beverage license for PPC Sioux Falls, Noodles and Company, 5216 East Arrowhead Parkway, with conditional use permit 2014-0502, being approved on June 4, 2014, pending final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services. 18 is a new 2014 retail wine license for PPC Sioux Falls, Noodles and Company, 5216 East Arrowhead Parkway, with a conditional use permit 2014-0502, being approved on June 4, 2014. 19, new 2014-15 retail malt beverage license, including video lottery terminals for Wesley Brandis, The Brass Rail, 1213 North Cliff Avenue, CUP not required. Item 20, special one-day liquor license request for Hy-Vee Inc., all occasions by Hy-Vee, to be operated at the Point is to Serve Church, 506 North Kiwanis Avenue, for weddings on the following dates in 2014, August 9 and August 23, September 6, 13, 20, and 27. Item 21, special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for Hy-Vee Inc., all occasions by Hy-Vee, to be operated at the Point is to Serve Church, 506 North Kiwanis Avenue, for a wedding on August 16, 2014. And special one-day liquor license for TSK Inc., Stogie's Cigar Lounge, to be operated on Phillips Avenue between 10th and 11th Streets, for the Stogie's Stakeout on July 26, 2014.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with licensing. Item 16 is a new license request for the new Iceplex facility. 17 and 18 are a second location for Noodles and Company on the east side of town. Item 19 is formerly known as Toppers, but it's a new tenant, a new license request. Items 20 through 22 are all special one-day requests throughout the city, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jamie. Council, yes, Councilor Rolfing.
Thank you. Jamie, the Iceplex, are they, have you been out there? Do you know the design on the building as to how they're going to separate the alcohol from the kids, making sure that that's not available, et cetera, et cetera?
I have not, and I know that they submitted a security management plan, and that was approved by the police department, and it should have been made available to you online.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't know the answer. And I did have a question from a gentleman in the audience as well, and I don't know if he wants to come forward and ask that question that he had.
Jamie, what was the question? Just go ahead.
His question was, what is their intent with this particular license? And I did not know the answer to that, but I don't know if the applicant is here either.
Is the applicant for the Shields Iceplex here tonight? Sir, would you mind coming forward? Councilor Rolfing has a question, and so does Jamie. Welcome. The question from Councilor Rolfing is there a security plan to ensure that the alcohol doesn't get into the hands of the young people that are out there, number one? And then number two, there was another question that Jamie had relayed about what's the intent of selling the alcohol at the indoor ice center?
It's strictly for the adult participation games. Pardon me. We are sending the facility manager to one of the training sessions, and we will be monitoring that very closely. Most everyone involved has children, and we're adequately concerned about that problem.
And sir, could you just mention your name again, please?
Yes, it's Bob Coslet.
Bob Coslet. Thank you,
Yes.
Bob. Thank you. Sir, just hang on one second, please. Councilor Anderson, or Councilor Rolfing, did you have a follow-up?
Sir, Bob?
Yes.
By adequately separated, what do you mean? Are they going to just have a keg out there during the old man hockey as my son plays?
Actually, we'll be serving them individual cans.
Individual
is the
cans?
present plan, yes.
There's not going to be a. What about during tournaments and things like that?
I'm sorry.
What about during tournaments?
Strictly adults. Everything will be separated from the children.
How?
That's, I think it's just close monitoring on our part. And again, I'd stress that our facility manager will be going for the training and
Yeah, but that just
pick up all the
basically
tips we
helps
can
him
get.
understand what the difference between the red and the blue license
Exactly.
is on a driver's license. I guess I've got some concerns about this. I thought about it, that, there's one thing to have a restaurant and a lounge kind of thing in the middle or off to a side where the adults can go to, and you can card and look at things as they're coming in. It's quite another to have it out in the middle of everything and have people, handing out the cans of beer or selling the cans of beer when there's a tournament going on, for instance, and that kind of thing, because I think that might very easily happen, and I don't know that that's exactly the kind of image that we want to have.
it'll be locked in a secure container, refrigerated container.
Yeah, but you got to open it to sell it.
That's correct.
Okay, and are you just going to walk up and down the stands with it?
No, there'll be an individual who will be designed and designated as responsible for that particular phase of our operation.
With the proper security around it, the proper placing of it, I think it could be a very good thing for you. But I just don't see that and hear from you that that's been thought out very well at this point. And so I would have problems with this end of it. Okay.
Councilor Rolfing, Councilor Bach, did you want to just mention?
If I could just read from their the security plan that was approved by the police department and is available on SIRE for the public and for anyone, I would look at the second item from the bottom in their security plan. Alcohol sales will be conducted during certain events throughout the year based on the user group. This decision will be made by the Shields Iceplex General Business Manager. That to me is exactly what this gentleman is saying, is that it's based on age. They will not be selling at kid events any more than we sell beer at kids softball games and so.
What was the wording on that again? I'm
It
sorry.
is based on the user group. It's during certain events throughout the year based on the user group. And it's quite a detailed security plan. It talks about following South Dakota state law. It talks about only serving only people of age, and the people who are doing the serving are all of age, and all of that. It's quite detailed, and it is available on SIRE.
Councilor Rolfing?
Just, I'm sure they will, but what I envision is them having cans of beer out, and during a tournament, and the kids are there with it, the adults are in the stands, and the kids are there with it like it,
No, that is not how I read that, sir.
but that's not how you read it, but it can be interpreted that way, and so I still have some problems with it. Council?
It's not any different, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Anderson Jr., did you have a question?
I first would like to hear the end of what Councilor Erfenbach was going to say.
To me,
Counselor,
the comparison for me would be during men's softball tournaments in Sioux Falls, where concession stands are open and you can buy beer at the concession stand. And you may be sitting in the stands with your son or daughter who is underage, and you are consuming alcohol that you legally bought at a men's adult softball tournament. At the same time, on that same field or in that same general area, at a different time, when there are youth there, it's a youth event, we do not allow the concessions to sell beer. This would be the same sort of thing. It's based on the user group, and I would trust this organization and trust our police department to approve this.
Councilor Anderson Jr.?
Yes, that was what my question was also, is during youth events. I understand being able to sell alcohol during adult events, and in our parks, it is specifically stated that way. In this case, it is not. And I think that's something I would like to hear from either you, sir, or
I think
from
we
your
stated that
organization.
in our application, and primarily the sales would be during the adult programs, which is following the youth programs, so there probably would be limited times when there would even be use in the building when we're selling alcohol. I'm not saying that would never happen, but I'm saying it would be a small percentage of the time we'd be selling it.
Jamie, when you reviewed the application, was there anything in there that would maybe address what Councilor Anderson Jr. is talking about in his comments?
Not specifically on the application itself. It could potentially be put in the security management plan, I suppose. It could be outlined more specifically to specifically state that.
We're certainly willing to do that.
Councilor Karski?
I'm looking at a plan that was also approved by the police department, the one that Councilor Erpenbach's talking about. And this just boils down to they want to have beer available for the old men that get together to play hockey 5-7 times a week. It says that the sales will be conducted during certain events through the year based on the user group, not on the people attending, but on the people that are renting, which tells me it has to be adult. I think we're really getting a little overly nitpicky on this one issue here, and they want to have beer for the guys that get together to play hockey a few nights a week. The plan was approved. I see no reason why we're having this discussion.
Councilor Rolfing?
I agree with everything you guys have said, but I also see that there's too many loopholes in the way that this has been worded, and I think they could come back with a little different situation here in a week or whatever, and give us a little more information. I would make a motion to amend number. Which one is it here?
16, I believe it is.
16.
Out of the unfinished business until next week, when they can come back with a better plan for us.
Councilor Rolfing's made a motion to basically defer item 16 a week until they could come back with a more detailed plan addressing some of the comments tonight. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There is a second.
If I could add, we do not have a regular meeting next week. It would have to be April 5th,
Okay.
so 3 weeks from tonight.
I would make my
August
motion for
August
5th.
August 5th. Very good. Are you comfortable with that, Councilor Rolfing?
Yes.
Are you comfortable with that, Councilor Anderson Jr.? They both said yes. So there is a motion. Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. Councilor Erbenbach?
I would then challenge, if you're going to vote to defer this, I would challenge you then to look as carefully at the next time we approve these for parks and for all of those organizations that use the same facilities for different age groups, because they're all written exactly the same way. And now we have a double standard because I don't know why. This isn't any different than a softball field.
Councilor Anderson Jr.
Since Don Kearney's here, can we have him come up, please?
Don? Bob, you can have a seat temporarily.
Don Kearney with Parks and Rec.
Don, could you address how how the policy is set for parks?
Yeah, for example, at Sherman Park and Harmon Park, we do post signs there that during youth events that alcohol cannot be consumed during those youth events where they're the primary user. Now, if the adult softball leagues are out there, then it is acceptable.
So for youth events, it's just no, correct?
That's correct, where we have it signed. That's correct.
Councilor Karski.
I think we're missing something here. This isn't a city-owned building or a public park.
Very good. There's been very good discussion. There is a motion to defer item number 16 until August 5th. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rothing,
Yes.
Staggers,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson,
No.
Erpenbach,
No.
Jamison,
No.
Karski,
No.
Kylie.
No.
That has failed 2-6. Do we have a motion on the items in their entirety?
I would make that motion to approve items 16 through 22.
Second Erickson.
There's been a motion to approve the unfinished business portion of our meeting tonight. It's been seconded by Councilor Erickson. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Council members Rothing,
No.
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That is passed 7-1. Item number 23.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Section 95071, subsection B, ice rink fees of Chapter 95, Parks and Recreation of Title 9, General Regulations.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Dave Fisher with Sioux Falls Parks and Recreation. The revisions that are being proposed to you this evening to the existing fee ordinance will allow us to continue to charge fees at the Sioux Falls Ice and Rec Center when it reopens in September of this year. The previous fee schedule expired at the end of June, along with and at the same time as our management agreement with Sioux Falls Sports Management Services expired. In our recent discussions with Ice Sports Association, they've requested, and we have agreed to propose, that we will match their rates at the Iceplex, and the proposed revision to the ordinance allows us to do this. We believe by doing this, it will help alleviate the concern that we're competing with them. The exhibit that you see up on the screen shows in a little more detail the fees that are being proposed within the ordinance, or not within the ordinance, but right now by Sioux Falls Ice and Rec Center and the Iceplex. You can see the individual fees there that go from $3 to $4 for youth and seniors. Also for youth, 13 and older and adults, goes from $5 to $6. Skate rental is at $3. And then you can see at that point, then you're looking at an hourly ice rental rate. The $80 fee, just for those that are new in the council especially, and maybe those who aren't totally up to speed on how the Sioux Falls Ice and Rec Center has been operated. When the city first took over what was then the Minnehaha Ice and Rec Center, within that agreement, I guess we were held to keep that $80 fee for youth hockey and figure skating for a period of 5 years once we took over the facility. We've been able to hold that number since then. But with this fee schedule, that $80 ice will go away. You can see below that what the breakdown is of how the ISA has the primetime hours, the late night hours, and the hourly ice rentals from opening until 4 Monday through Friday, and then the charge for the Stampede. How they sort all that out and what those hours are made up of, and then what the rates are. The exhibit that you're looking at up on the screen has been shared with the Sioux Falls Ice Sports Association, and they have agreed to that and confirmed that those are their rates at this point. With that, I could answer any questions you might have.
David, thank you. And folks, this is a first reading, so you don't have an opportunity to engage the council tonight. If it goes to a second reading, you certainly will. David, thank you. Council, I'll leave it in your hands. Councilor Karski.
Just one comment. I'm just looking at the way the ordinance is written, and a concern that I have is it says that the fee shall not exceed the following. It doesn't mean that those are going to be the rates, so would that leave it open to interpretation that we could charge less than this? I mean, I know that's not the intent, but
Right.
the way the ordinance is written, it doesn't say anything about these are the rates. It just says they won't exceed it. Can you explain?
Yep, that's a very good question, Counselor. Our thought with adding that language, it was language that we took from another fee ordinance having to do with parking fees. And we took that language from the standpoint of, as a private organization, if they want to massage these fees, or even the hours, that what constitutes a late night hour after 10, if they want to switch that to after 11, or if they want to raise one of those rates, $127.20, $10, and they massage that in the early going here, that this will allow us some flexibility to be able to continue to meet their rates without. They can do it because they're a private organization. Obviously, they can do it starting tomorrow. For us, it's about a 2-month process by the time we go to the Sioux Falls Ice and Rec Center Board, by the time we go to the Park Board, and then come to the council with an ordinance. We're simply trying to build in a little bit of flexibility to accommodate them.
Councilor Anderson Jr.
Who is on the ICE board? I've never heard of this one. So I guess we have a board that oversees the ICE Center?
No, I'm sorry, maybe I misspoke. The Sioux Falls Ice and Rec Center Board that exists. They're the advisory board for our facility. Since these are fees that are being charged at the Sioux Falls Ice and Rec Center, that board has been consulted as well.
Counselor, did you get your question answered?
Just one other question. Could you provide the board structure per email if possible?
Sure.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Jameson.
Move to set the hearing date for second reading for Tuesday, August 5th.
Second, Erpenbach.
Thank you. Counselor Jameson's made a motion to set the date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, August 5th. Counselor Bach seconded that. It's been good discussion. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 24.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 50 North Knoll Drive from the AG Agriculture District to the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District. Petition number 2014-0602, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission unanimously recommends denial.
Good evening. I'm Mike Cooper with City Planning and Building Services. We have a number of items tonight that were considered at the last City Planning Commission meeting. This item, the applicant is Scott Gilbert, along with Pat Beckman representing North Star Development. This property is located north and east of the Cactus Heights area. It's just west of Cactus Drive and north of Fairway Drive. It's about a little over 9 acres in size. The applicants are proposing to change the zoning of this property from agricultural to allow either single-family or twin home development on 5 lots. There's 5 lots proposed on this 9 acres. As we heard from the Planning Commission meeting, there was a lot of neighborhood concern about primarily the impact of development on the road system. There are private roads in this area. The area to the south of this is still outside the city limits. And the neighbors were asking a lot of questions about not only the impact on the road, the maintenance of the roads, but also plans for emergency vehicle access. And because the Planning Commission didn't feel like those questions were adequately addressed, they did vote to deny the rezoning. Since the Planning Commission meeting, we've had further discussions with the applicant. The applicant is asking staff tonight to propose to you, the council, to move the second reading to August 19th rather than August 5th. The applicant would like to put together a better plan to address the road issues, and then also meet again with the neighbors to review that road maintenance plan and emergency access plan. And he believes that they can do that by the August 19th City Council meeting. So that's the request tonight.
Thank you, Mike. Again, second reading, so I'm going to move it to Councilor Karski.
Mike, will this come before the zoning commission again then?
This would, no.
It will not. So
Nope.
the denial will ride and it'll be up to us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good question. Councilor Kiley.
And Mike, just to clarify, the roads that were in question were actually private development codes, is that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Actually owned by the applicant.
I was in attendance at that particular meeting.
Thank you, Councilor
And there was
Kelly.
a lot of discussion.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Mike, how much of the Cactus Heights addition there is going to be affected by this if we approve it?
The portion to the south, which uses that same Cactus Drive access road that comes off Madison. Yep, going up there. Those are the people that would be sharing the use of that road with those additional 5 lots.
And has the, you discussed about the emergency services, things like that, fire and that. In this area, I remember when I first started on the council, we had, as a matter of fact, I think you and I dealt with some issues where the fire department could not find homes in this area because the streets were not properly marked.
Right.
And there's I would say a real big pushback from that Cactus Heights group there that does not want to be annexed in here.
We've had a lot of discussions with those people. There's a portion of the southern development called Cactus Heights South that we have a pre-annexation agreement with, but this northern part, we haven't had recent discussions with them. Part of the applicant's proposal over the next couple of weeks is going to be identifying access to adjoining property that they have that would be used for emergency access.
If I
Please.
more, I guess on this, Mike, I can understand where the planning commission was coming from. Here we've been talking about annexation in other areas and how we want our roads and everything to be all done, and in this case it's not going to be. So, you know, are we going to play it both ways, or are we going to do it, you know, just one way? And I think that steering committee should look at this one too as we move forward.
That's the additional information that we're going to be working on for you. Yes.
Councilor Kiley. Or, I'm sorry, Councilor Rolfing.
Yeah, he's got the same haircut as I do.
But I'm much younger.
That's it. And better looking, I might add. I guess one of my questions was answered, and that is that this is not part of the city at this point. It's not been annexed in.
It is annexed, yes.
It is?
Yes.
Okay, that's, then I would, yeah, I have some questions about this. I think we need to defer it, because if we're going to do it, let's do it once and be done with it, rather than piecemeal it like we've talked about with the other one. So, okay.
Councilor Rolfing, thank you. My apologies. Councilor Karski.
Just curious, Mike, why we're delaying the second reading, and if they're coming out with a new plan, why wouldn't this go back to the planning commission for them to review and vet it? And I mean, isn't that the proper place for it? Why do we want to take it back to us if it's been recommended for denial?
I think
they're going to change the plan.
If the applicant was proposing to change the zoning from what had gone to the planning commission, that would be appropriate to take it back to them. But the applicant is still asking for the single family and the twin homes. And again, the major discussion was roads versus land use. The planning commission typically deals with land use. You on the council deal with land use as well as roads.
Thank you.
Thanks for educating me too, Mike. Thank you. Councilor Jameson.
I think it's a good idea to defer it till the 19th, give the neighbors a chance to work it out, give the applicant to work it out. We still have the deciding vote. If we don't like it then, we can defer it still.
Yep.
But let's I would agree or make that motion to defer to the 19th.
I'll second that motion.
There's been a motion to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, August 19th by Councilor Jameson, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rothing,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 25.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property north of East 69th Street and west of South Southeastern Avenue from the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential and RS Single Family Residential Districts to the RA1 Apartment Residential and RD2 Townhome Residential Districts, including conditions as allowed in Section 160.650 subsection E, placing limitations on which form can be used within the RD2 Townhome Residential District. Petition number 2014-0520 and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval with the following condition. A minimum of one row of lots utilizing the AD1 form, twin home or duplex uses are required along the entire length of the north property line.
The applicant for this item is Brady Hyde, representing Whisper Ridge South Addition. This property is located north of East 69th Street and west of Southeastern Avenue. On the western edge of this property is the existing railroad. The property is just over 25 acres in size, and it's north of land that the council recently approved zoning for multifamily development along 69th Street for Jim Dunham. This precipitated a lot of neighborhood discussion. Staff met with neighbors prior to the Planning Commission meeting, and we had a really good turnout at the Planning Commission meeting itself. The property to the north of this is occupied by a number of existing twin homes. And we heard from those residents that were concerned about a number of issues. Traffic, playground area, drainage were the key things that we heard about. As a result of the Planning Commission discussion and public input, the developer has agreed to place a row of twin home lots, if we can go to the side-by-side, place a row of twin home lots along that north side, which would be adjacent to existing twin homes directly to the north. The applicant has also agreed to additional landscaping in the back of those twin homes. The developer will be providing their own on-site playground area, and they will also be complying with our storm drainage improvements requirements so that there'll be existing regional detention ponds to the west and to the east that will provide for stormwater drainage. So on the left, you see the graphic of the existing zoning, and then on the right, what's proposed. In the RD2 would be townhomes, and in the RA1 would be multifamily with a maximum of 24 units per building. And then to the south of that is the RA3 zoning that the council previously approved for larger scale multifamily. So we're still kind of getting used to this zoning nomenclature, I understand that. But we're trying to provide this transition from the higher density along 69th Street to the lower density up against the existing twin homes. And that's how it came out of the Planning Commission with a recommendation for approval.
Thanks, Mike. Councilor Kylie.
Mike, as you know, I've met with neighbors. I've met with the developer on this. I was at the Planning Commission meeting as well. And the developer has agreed, in addition to the row of twin homes on the north edge of the project, to do the additional landscaping, trees behind the twin homes, as well as the playground. But the trees, and we were informed by Jason at the Planning Commission meeting that the trees in the playground could not be made specific conditions because it wasn't allowed in ordinance. Can you tell me what part of our ordinance does not allow that?
The specific quotation, you mean?
Well, I can see the neighbors' desire to have that if the developer agrees to do that. Why, I do question why it cannot be made a condition.
Yeah, the ordinance, and I don't have that citation in front of me, but the ordinance listed specific things that can be added as amendments. But let us take another look at that, and maybe there's another way that we can come up with a of getting something on the record, at least, of an agreement. We'll do that.
That's kind of what I'm looking for as well, too.
We'll take another look at that.
And I have no doubt that the developer isn't going to follow through because they've been very good throughout this whole process.
Okay.
Councilor Colley, welcome to the team. Good job.
Move to set a date, second reading on Tuesday, August 5th at this meeting.
Second, Karski.
Thank you. Councilor Rolfing has made a motion to set a date of hearing, second reading for Tuesday, August 5th, and it was seconded by Councilor Karski. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach. Yes. Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. Item 26.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by revising planning and zoning application fees. Planning Commission recommends approval.
We have two items tonight that were initiated by city staff requesting some changes to our fee structure. As we start looking at our 2015 budget request with the finance team, and we've done this in past years, we need to keep our fees up to date, current, and relevant. This first request under item 6 would be amending some of our zoning fees, and they vary from sign permits to manufactured home placements to Board of Adjustment hearings and zoning plan reviews. In many cases, these have not been updated for more than 5 years, and in some cases 10 years. What we're trying to do is get on a schedule of looking at these on at least a 3-year cycle. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to change them every 3 years, but we want to be reviewing them as part of our management process.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, Councilor Anderson Jr.
Mike, this item and the next one are both talking about fees.
Yes.
In the second readings, will you be showing us the fee structure or
yes.
the new proposed structure?
And we've got some comparisons, and then also we can put together when they were last modified. We'll put a chart together for that.
Move to set the second reading for Tuesday, August 5th, 2014 at 7 p.m.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson Jr., and thank you, Councilor Rolfing. They've set a recommendation to set a date of hearing and second reading for August 5th. Roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson. Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. Item 27.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 160, zoning, subchapter fees. Planning Commission recommends approval.
These fees would be proposed to be changed that are primarily administered by the planning division of our department, and they vary everything from change of zone request to conditional use to annexations. And again, we'll put together a chart that shows you some of these have been updated 3 years ago. Some of them have been over 10 years since we've addressed them, and we'll put that more detail together for you. And we'll actually get that to you out ahead of time so you can look it over.
Thank you, Mike. Councilor Erickson.
If you could include in that also what's collected over a year and what the new collection will be, just to see the differences. So it's just a full comparison.
Very good.
Just another little tidbit to add, please.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Would you mind setting a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, August 5th, Councilor Erickson?
I move to set the second reading for August 5th at 7 p.m.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson Jr. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach. Yes. Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 28.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at the southwest corner of East 57th Street and South Sycamore Avenue from the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar and RA2 Apartment Residential Moderate Density Districts to the C3 Commercial Community, RA3 Apartment Residential High Density, and RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban Districts, petition number 2014-0607, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The applicant for this item is Joel Dykstra with RMB Associates. And this is in that west corner of 57th and Sycamore. It's just over 36 acres in size. This property has gone through a previous zoning by council action, and when we converted to our Shaped Places zoning ordinance, there were some transitions that we discussed with the applicant. With this modified zoning plan, the applicant feels that it's more in line again with what the market and the land use designations would be appropriate for this area. The C3, as you remind yourselves, allows up to 75,000 square foot building. The C2 is 25,000 square foot building. And the multifamily RA3 and RD2 would be that transition down to twin homes or townhomes. So we're still providing those transitions that we had before, but we're just using our Shaped Places zoning designations. And then that very south, I should say the very northeast corner is not currently in the city limits. That still would be remaining as agricultural land. We did not have any neighborhood comments on this proposal.
Thanks, Mike. Council, any comments?
Move to set hearing or for second reading on Tuesday, August 5th.
Second.
Councilor Rolfing, thank you, and Councilor Karski, thank you as well. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson? Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 29.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at the southeast corner of West 85th Street and South Tallgrass Avenue from the AG Agriculture District to the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar, C3 Commercial Community, O Office, RA3 Apartment Residential High Density, and RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban Districts, petition number 2014-0606, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The applicant for this item is also Joel Dykstra, again with RMB Associates. And this is in the southeast corner of West 85th Street and South Tallgrass Avenue, approximately 64 acres of land that was annexed by City Council approval. This is the first zoning plan that we have been asked to consider for this property. We're going from agricultural to future urban development. And so again, that side-by-side comparison, if you look at the C3, again, that's the 75,000 square foot retail. We transitioned down to the 25,000 and then the multifamily and then lower density residential on that east side as the buffer. So we've tried to work not only with the applicant, but also respecting how this impacts the adjoining property. We also did not have public comment on this item at the Planning Commission meeting.
Thanks, Mike. Yes, Councilor Rolfing.
Mike, where are the entrances and exits on this? Do you have any idea at this point?
We will, yeah, we'll be bringing to you a subdivision plan that will show that.
Okay.
Yep, you can kind of see there, at least conceptually, how that would work. So the access will be off 85th as well as off that western property. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
But we'll be eventually bringing you a more detailed subdivision plan for your consideration later on.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Mike, to the west, the zoning over there looks like it's residential. Am I correct?
To the west is not in the city limits.
Okay.
At this time.
Okay, thank you.
So it's probably zoned agricultural with Lincoln County.
Council, any motions?
Motion to set second reading for Tuesday, August 5th.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Rolfing, and thank you, Councilor Kiley. Roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson? Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. Item number 30.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at the northwest corner of South Purdue Avenue and West Lobelia Street from the RS Single Family Residential Suburban District to the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District, petition number 2014-0604, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The applicant is Brady Hyde, again with Empire Homes. This is located approximately a quarter mile north of 41st Street and east of Ellis Road. That's part of the Elrod's addition. This is 7 existing undeveloped lots that are being proposed to be constructed with twin homes. And this is another interesting aspect of our zoning. Under our old zoning ordinance, these would have required a conditional use permit for the twin homes. Now the applicant is proposing to change the zoning to make them specific to twin homes. And we did not have neighborhood comment on this one as well.
Thanks, Mike. Councilor Karski.
Looking at your map, Mike, from the existing to the proposed, it looks like we're putting 7 twin homes in the middle of a bunch of single family, or maybe you can interpret that map. What's to the south?
Yeah, to the south is multifamily and twin home lots. It just doesn't show up very well with the color scheme. But south of Lobella would be higher density residential. Okay. So this is a good transition. Yep. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Jam. Councilor?
I can tell you're actually looking at this stuff, so that's good. Okay.
It's impressive.
Yes.
Would anybody want to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, August 5th for this item?
So moved, Karski.
Second, Rolfing.
Councilor Karski has made that motion and seconded by Councilor Rolfing. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. Item 31.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property east and west of North Marlow Avenue and north of East Fairway Drive from the AG Agriculture District to the RS Single Family Residential Suburban District, petition number 2014-0603, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The applicant for this item is Scott Gilbert, along with Pat Beckman. This is located east of Cactus Drive and north of Fairway Drive, and this also is in the city limits, since we're considering it for rezoning tonight. This is to the north and east of one of our previous items tonight that we had requested to be deferred till the August 19th meeting. In this case, the owners are proposing to develop this into 17 single-family lots, but the access would be to the south along Marlow Avenue and would not require the Cactus Drive access like the previous item. We also wanted to show you on an exhibit the proximity of this to the future South Dakota 100. I think we have that somewhere in there. But it's about a half a mile to Powderhouse Road to the east. So in this case, the neighborhood did not have as strongly concerns because of the access will go through Canterbury Heights directly to the south, which takes you down to Madison Street. So this one is recommended for approval by the Planning Commission for the 17 single-family lots.
I'll set second reading for Tuesday, August 5th.
Second.
Thank you. Councilor Rolfing's made that motion to set that date of hearing, and Councilor Anderson Jr. seconded it. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you. Item 32.
A resolution appointing an audit committee member to the City Council Audit Committee.
Councilor Rolfing?
As chairman of the audit committee, I would, Jason has been a member for 5 years, I believe, and is willing to, and been a good member to continue on. I guess it's a three-year. And I would highly urge you to accept his appointment. He's an accountant and is at meetings and does a very good job helping our committee with the audit function.
Councilor Rolfing, thank you. Would you want to make a motion?
Yes, I would. I would move approval of number 32.
Second.
Thank you. You know what, I should have asked, is there anyone in the audience who want to speak to this item? Very good. Councilor, there has been a motion made by Councilor Rolfing, seconded by Councilor Kylie. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson. Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 33.
A resolution,
If I could, I'm going to turn over the gavel to Councilor Karski at this time, and then I'll come back, if that's okay. Thank you.
Should we have a vote?
all right. Item 33, a resolution declaring it necessary to levy and levying a frontage assessment against the lots, tracts, and parcels of land fronting and abutting upon 21st Street from Phillips Avenue to 7th Avenue in the city of Sioux Falls for the purpose of maintaining, planting, and otherwise improving and caring for the center parkways and boulevard thereon.
Welcome.
Good evening, City Council. Kelby Maris with Parks and Recreation. This resolution would levy assessments on those properties abutting and fronting 21st Street from Phillips Avenue going east to 7th Avenue for the care and improvement of the landscape medians. This assessment has been in place since 1915, when the affected property owners initiated the assessment to allow for the development and the care and maintenance of these medians. There are 53 property owners that will be assessed 85 cents per front foot. The average assessment to these property owners is $62 per year. This assessment rate has not changed since 1998, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Since it is a resolution, we are going to take public input first before any questions. Anybody from the public like to address this? Seeing none, we'll take questions from the council. Councilor Staggers.
Yes. How many boulevards do we have in the city of Sioux Falls in the center?
I'm not exactly sure on the number, but there are several miles of landscape medians throughout the city.
Mm-hmm. And this is the only one where we have a special assessment, is that right?
I believe so.
Ever since 1915, we're almost getting up to 100 years. Maybe we can just maybe not do this anymore because we don't do it for other boulevards. In other words, this doesn't seem fair at all.
Well, again, this assessment was initiated by the property owners at the time, and throughout the course of this assessment, it's a yearly assessment, when the assessment has been raised, the abutting property owners have supported that and signed a petition in support of that. So it's something that the abutting property owners I have historically supported, and they do definitely care about the look and the care of the landscape median on 21st Street.
You mentioned petitions. I'm not aware of those residents signing petitions in recent years.
Well, no, sir, not in recent years. But again, the assessment hasn't been raised since 1998.
Yeah, but every year they have an assessment.
Correct.
Nobody else does in this community, just them.
Not for this assessment, yes.
Councilor Erpenbach.
I would just comment that this is a really high maintenance landscape median, that the others are fairly low maintenance. We don't water them. We don't go in and prune plants and those sorts of things with them. This is a different situation, and it is historic in Sioux Falls. And the input that I hear from my neighbors that live in that area is that they do support it. They love living there. It's one of those things that is just a special thing about living on 21st Street. I would encourage my colleagues to vote yes.
I'm going to take a few. I'll get back to you, Councilor Staggers. Just in fairness, get to everybody. Councilor Kiley.
I would like to add to what Councilor Erpenbach had stated, that this is an historic, primarily residential area. I know a lot of the other areas where we do have boulevards, it's on major thoroughfares, not necessarily bordered by residents. I would encourage approval as well.
Councilor Erickson.
The only thing that I would mention, kind of piggybacking on the previous two speakers, is no one's here saying we don't want to pay this anymore. I'm sure if I had heard from 2 property owners or even 1 property owner, but I haven't received any communication from any of the property owners. So that just kind of leads me to believe that they're okay with it. They enjoy the aesthetics of it. It's beautiful. And so I would encourage you to move this along.
Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, did we send out any notice to the property owners on 21st that we were going to do this tonight?
No, sir.
Councilor Anderson.
This is something we look at yearly, correct, Kelby?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a couple years ago, didn't we have to do some extra work on the medium? We actually had citizens come here and support what we're doing there, right?
Yes.
I'm going to follow along with Councilor Erfenbach, Erickson, Mr. Kiley, that this is something that the citizens, the people who live along that strip of road have asked for this. It's not that, and they've been here on, yes they have. They have been here, they have supported this. This is something we look at every year, and those folks, those citizens there know this. And I also ask that you support this.
Is that a motion, Councilor?
And that is a motion, yes.
Second, Rolfing.
Other discussion? Councilor Erpenbach?
If I might just remind the council that this meeting was a publicly notified meeting in accordance with South Dakota state law, that no one gets a mailing on city council meetings, so that the agenda has been public for the legal amount of time.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
No.
Anderson? Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
And that is passed by a vote of 7-1.
Councilor Karski, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Item number 34.
A resolution extending the open video system license of Knology of the Plains, Inc., DBA WOW, Internet, Cable, and Phone.
Did anyone want to speak on behalf of the, Sue, do you want to speak at all? Thank you.
Sue Kwan-Baguetten, Director of Central Services. We were in attendance at the 4 o'clock informational meeting today and gave a presentation to the council to explain a little bit more in terms of what OBS is, and that we've gone through a compliance review over the last several months with our consultant, Adrian Herbst, and we are recommending that the OBS license get extended for 5 years.
Thank you, Sue. And I apologize. Would you just introduce yourself to the people of Sioux Falls?
Sue Kwan-Baguetten.
Thank you. Council?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Councilor Rolfing made the motion, or I'm so sorry. Okay. Why don't I, before I go to you, Councilor, would you mind, is there anybody in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Very good. Thank you. Councilor Rolfing has made that motion to approve it, and it was seconded by Councilor Kiley. And then I'm going to go to Councilor Jamison.
Just a question for staff, anyone. Where does the roughly, I believe it's $30,000 that's collected annually, is that number right? And where does that money go?
Oh, from us.
Make sure the number's right. I estimated it myself.
Yeah, it's pretty close to that each year, somewhere between 25 and 28,000, and it goes into the general fund.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Sagers.
Yeah, Sue, I thought you were going to say some of that's going to be for paying our consultant. How much do we pay our consultant?
We are run up to a tab of approximately $11,000.
Thank you.
Very good. Roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson? Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 35.
A resolution of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the placement of a sculpture on public property.
Again, Mike Cooper with Planning and Building Services. We have a proposal tonight for the council's consideration to add a second piece of artwork out by the new event center. In this case, it would be added to the southwest entry area along a pedestrian walkway. The proposed piece is called Getting the Net, which is a basketball-themed piece. It's a former downtown sculpture walk piece that the city would acquire and place in this area. The cost of buying the sculpture and installing it is estimated to be about $19,000, which would be part of our event center budget. This has gone through Visual Arts Commission with a recommendation for approval to be placed at this location as part of our new facility that will be opening.
Mike, thank you. Would anybody in the audience want to speak to this item? Council? Yes, Councilor Anderson Jr.
Mike, with Sculpture Walk, don't we purchase maybe, I think it's like one piece a year and put it on public property?
Yes, we usually buy what we call the People's Choice Award, and then we place that in some public area.
This isn't the case, though, with this one, is it?
Right,
Or
this is a special one that we're utilizing because it fits with the theme of our event center.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Conley?
I would agree that it does fit the theme. It's perfect for this venue, and I would move that we approve this.
And I'll second.
Thank you. Councilor Kiley has made that motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Rolfing. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 36.
A resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, annexation 2014-0521, 10th Street and 6 Mile Road.
This is an application submitted by Jerry Anderson, the owner of the property with Anderson Landscaping, out in the area of 6 Mile Road and 10th Street. This property consists of approximately 78 acres in land area, and it is adjoining our existing city limits to the south and to the east. The applicant is proposing to work with a local home builder to develop this into future single-family, primarily residential. And we do have the ability to have water and sewer serving this area along 6 Mile Road. It is in what we call the Tier 1 growth area or annexation area. As part of our review of these annexation petitions, we do have a number of different city staff review this. The applicant is also proposing to work with the adjoining landowner to the south and west on a future development plan, an updated development plan for what was known in the past as the Galleria commercial development. So this is the first step in working with us on getting the annexation moving forward. The next step will be coming in with a rezoning application. The city staff has reviewed this and is recommending approval of the annexation.
Thank you, Mike. Is there anyone in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Council? Councilor Anderson Jr.
Mike, can you go back one, films? Can you circle the area that we're going to be developing here again?
The area that's outlined in the dark black is the petitioned area. So the area that's in blue is outside the city limits. The area that's in gray is existing city limits.
All right, thank you.
I'll move approval.
Thank you, Councilor. Appreciate that.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Jamison. There has been a motion to approve this item and it has been seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you. Item 37.
A resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the preliminary plan of Dolly Farm Addition 2014-0601. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The application for this item is Dolly Farm Legacy 2 LLC. This is the Dolly Farm area, which consists of about 280 acres on the west side of Highway 100, north of 26th Street. Recently, the council approved a major zoning update for this property. This next step in the process is modifying what we call the preliminary development plan or subdivision plan that shows primarily the road layout. And based on the new zoning changes, if we can put together the side-by-side. There we go. On the left is the street layout under the old zoning designations. And on the right is what's being requested tonight based on the new zoning designations. So you can see that that area south of 18th Street is being modified slightly. The main change is the 18th Street extension that goes to the west and to the north. Again, that's a slight modification based on the new zoning designations. The other thing that I'll comment on is that we heard from concerned property owners during the zoning hearing about a wetland area on the west side. There is an existing 70-foot utility easement along that property, which will allow us to preserve the majority of that wetland area. We've had discussions with that property owner about this, as well as the developers of Dolly Farm. The second question that Councilor Anderson Jr. has brought up a couple of times is the ring road. And we actually have a traffic impact study that was approved back in 2006 when we first did the zoning for Dolly Farm. We looked at a number of different options with a developer, with our traffic engineers, with their consultants, and it was agreed at that time that the roundabout would be the best option for dealing with the long-term traffic flow for this area. So it goes back to 2006. This has also been reviewed by engineering and other staff, as well as the Planning Commission, with a recommendation for approval.
Thanks, Mike. Would anybody in the audience want to speak to this item? Councilor Anderson Jr.
Mike, I guess I'd like to hear more about the wetlands, how we're going to mediate that area over there. Is there going to be a retention pond, or, you know, I'm really worried about how this development's going to affect those landowners to the west.
Yep, if we can show that on the aerial photo, probably, Diane. If we go up to the north, we're going to go to the west. There you go, right there. That's the area that the landowner to the west was concerned about, and a good portion of that is actually part of a major utility easement. There's an overhead power line. So the lots, it's going to be difficult to develop lots in that area, and we've had conversations with the applicant, and they are really interested in preserving that. As part of their storm drainage plan, we're going to be looking how we can preserve a good portion of that, but most of it is going to be protected with that utility easement. So,
because that utility easement runs
north and south,
yep, and south past 57th Street.
Yep. There's a stormwater detention pond to the north. There's also one to the northeast. There's also one to the south over by the school. And there's going to be at least 2 more added as part of the Dolly Farm development. So there'll be at least 5 different detention areas as part of their utility plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor.
Mike, I understood that there's a power line that runs right through that, right over the top of that that area. And
there are actually 2 of them.
That's what I thought. She only drew up one, and so I was not confused, but I wanted to make sure I was right. There is 2 of them. One of them goes right over the top of that little spot there that's in green.
And then another one along the west side of the...
Another one where she's drawing it now.
Yep. Yes.
Okay. I'll move approval.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there a second before I go to Councilor Kiley?
One other question, if I could, please.
Yes.
Second.
Thank you. I've got the motion has been made to approve this item and has been seconded. Councilor Kiley.
Mike, I walked this area a little bit yesterday, and I went into the grove of trees, and it's really not a grove of trees. It's more of a thicket because it is very, very dense. And in fact, in some cases, it's used as a dumping ground for grass clippings and branches from neighbors. Residential areas. If there's a wetland, is it to the north end of that grove of trees?
Yes, it's kind of in that general
because it slopes that direction.
Yes.
So it's not that entire area.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
There has been a motion, has been seconded. Good discussion. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you. Item 38.
A resolution authorizing use of construction manager at risk services for the construction of the indoor aquatics facility at Spelleberg Park.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Don Kearney with Parks and Rec. As part of City Ordinance, the City Council is required to authorize us to use the construction manager at risk delivery method. And so that's why we're here tonight to seek your approval to use that delivery method. We've used the construction manager at risk delivery method on the event center, and then we've also used it at the zoo. And it's really a good tool for those projects that are large in scope, as well as those unique projects that are out there. And so we would like to seek your approval to use that delivery method for the Indoor Aquatic Center at Spellerberg Park. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Don. Would anybody want to speak to this item? Thank you, Council. Councilor Staggers.
Yes, just double checking, Don, will we eventually approve the actual construction manager?
You will. Yep, there will be a contract. You'll see.
Move to approve, Karski.
Second, Rolfing.
Councilor Karski has made a motion to approve this item, second by Councilor Rolfing. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rothing,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Item 39.
A resolution establishing the City of Sioux Falls provisional legislative priorities for the 2015 state legislative session.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jim David, City Council staff. For your consideration tonight are 7 provisional priorities intended to guide the South Dakota Municipal League as they develop their own legislative platform. The first proposed priority expresses support for home rule and local control. This priority is a carryover from previous years. Priority number 2 supports legislation allowing cities and towns more flexibility when it comes to legal publications. And priority number 3 is defensive language that supports the integrity of city revenues. This item specifically states that the City Council opposes any legislation that would reduce, remove, repeal, or reallocate the municipal sales tax, liquor tax reversion, or any other municipal revenues to any other unit of government, or that would expand the power to impose a sales or use tax to any other unit of government. Priority number 4 is extending the owner-occupied property tax status to income-based rental housing. Priority 5 would increase the threshold for requiring performance bond from $25,000 to $50,000, thereby matching what is already required for state contracts. Priority number 6 requests that available water development funds be directed to extending the Lewis and Clark pipeline to Madison. And priority number 7 requests that the South Dakota legislature provide upfront monies to complete the Lewis and Clark water pipeline. Once completed, the federal funds would reimburse the state. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions on these items.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who want to speak to these items? Council?
Move to approve.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Buck's made a motion to approve this item, and seconded by Councilor Karski. Discussion? Councilor Staggers.
Yes, I'd like to introduce an amendment.
Sure.
Dealing with item number 4 to delete the term income-based.
Second.
Councilor Staggers made a motion to eliminate the words income-based, or word, I guess, income-based, on item number 4 of the recommended legislative priorities, and it has been seconded. A discussion? Councilor Rolfing?
Yes, I would like to offer a substitute motion to the substitution. Is that the proper way to do it? Which would read, the Sioux Falls City Council supports legislation that expands affordable housing opportunities in South Dakota.
I would second that.
There has been a substitute motion to the motion to the other motion. Thank you. And it has also been seconded. Discussion on that item? Councilor Karski.
I'm going to support that substitute motion simply because the whole intent of the initial action was to bring affordable housing as an issue to the municipal league, whether it be income-based, overall the scope of it, just to make affordable housing. It's a huge issue, primarily to Sioux Falls just because of our population, but to the rest of the state and any community that has affordable housing issues. So I think this is a very suitable amendment to that motion.
Councilor Kiley.
And I would also agree with the substitute amendment as well, because I believe the original amendment would greatly increase the scope of what our original intent is.
Lori, yes, Councilor.
To Councilor Stagers, I think we're saying the same thing. Basically, it's just in simpler language with my substitute motion, and that's why I did it that way, so that we could have more agreement if we go to the going with this to the municipal league.
I guess I would say that we're doing the same thing, but I'm doing it more broader, though. I'm not including just purely affordable affordable housing. I'm wanting this to be applicable to everybody that owns rental property. Because back in 1995, when we voted, when I was in the state senate, we didn't include commercial, we didn't include rental housing or anything like that. So I do understand today that, boy, these people are paying lots and lots and lots of money, more than people that are, in their own homes.
Councilor Mbach.
Well, I would just add to what Councilor Kiley was saying in terms of if we make it rental housing and property tax issues, that makes that issue way too broad, especially when we're talking about the issues of property taxes in South Dakota, and we look at our own Minnehaha County and the way that they're struggling. That is their main source of revenue is property taxes, and I think we need to be really careful about how we support or not support our friends and neighbors in that way. And I think that really Councilor Karski's original intent with number 4 was to help boost affordable housing in South Dakota, whether it's rental properties or otherwise. This leaves us open to all kinds of ideas and opportunities for, thinking outside that proverbial box, for making housing more affordable in South Dakota. End of conversation. I think it's a great amendment.
Councilor Anderson Jr.
In 2009, this council passed a move to do a study on affordable housing, a housing study in Sioux Falls and the surrounding areas. It has been used as a guideline for affordable housing and what demographics need this type of housing. I think it's been a great move ahead for the city. This is a very well-meaning resolution, but I hope from this point forward that we also meet with the Multi-Housing Association, who has been lobbying at a state level for the owner-occupied status. And I think that opening the doors and listening to that group there would increase our understanding of affordable housing in Sioux Falls, because it doesn't have to be all income-based. There is a lot of affordable housing in Sioux Falls provided by individuals and small companies that don't get the tax credits and the different other perks by by calling themselves affordable. So I hope that as we say these are things that we want to back, we need to also meet with those groups that are providing this right now today.
Thank you very much. Lori, would you mind reading the substitute amendment, please?
Certainly. Number 4 will read, the Sioux Falls City Council supports legislation that expands affordable housing opportunities in South Dakota.
Very good. A roll call vote, please.
Okay. Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
No.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
That has passed 7-1. Any other discussion? Yes, Councilor Staggers.
I've got one more amendment that reads as follows. Adding item 8, the Sioux Falls City Council supports legislation that would allow municipalities the authority to exempt food from city sales tax.
That motion has died for lack of a second. Any other discussion? Very good. Roll call vote, please.
All right. right, this is the main motion with the substitute, and that would be Council Members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
No.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
That is passed 7-1. Item 40.
All right. Item 40 is consideration of travel request for Councilor Kermit L. Staggers to attend the American Dream Coalition Conference in Denver, Colorado.
Good evening again, Jim David with the City Council staff. The council travel policy requires that all travel that's not pre-authorized, such as the Municipal League Conference or National League of Cities, receive authorization from the council at a regular meeting. The item before you would allow Councilor Staggers to attend the American Dream Coalition Conference later this year. If there are no other questions regarding this policy, I'll defer to Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, let me just mention that last year I attended the American Dream Coalition in Washington, D.C.
Councilor Staggers, I apologize to interrupt. Are you planning on voting on this item?
No, I'm not.
Are you you're going to recuse yourself?
That's correct.
Would you just mind letting the people you're going to recuse yourself?
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah, I'm just here to give a few preliminary remarks, and if anybody has any
no
questions.
problem. Councilor Staggers is going to recuse himself from voting on this item. Council, normally he would probably leave at this time. With your permission, if you wouldn't mind, we'll let him stay. I don't think he's going to intimidate anybody's vote. He's a colleague. We'll let him answer questions, and then we'll have you vote on that item. And Councilor Staggers, again, I don't think you have to leave. I think we know you well enough. Okay. So Councilor Staggers, go right ahead.
Yeah, last year I attended the American Dream Coalition conference in Washington, D.C. Now, during my previous years on the City Council, I've attended 9 American Dream Coalitions, but I've also attended other conferences related to city activities. And also in my profession, I've attended many academic conferences. The reason I'm mentioning that is because of all of these different conferences I've attended in my profession and on the City Council, the American Dream Coalition is truly an outstanding conference. And so that's the reason I always like to go every year to really learn more. This year, the conference is in Denver. And at this time, does anybody have any questions?
Councilor.
What's the cost of the registration and travel that you're planning on spending?
Well, Dave Bixler estimated the most it would be $1,300. But what he's doing is figuring airfare. I would probably drive, and hopefully that would reduce the cost.
Councilor Kylie.
Councilor Staggers, I took the opportunity to review the coalition's website, and I guess they have some concerns that I'm not sure are necessarily happening here in the city of Sioux Falls, such as restricting mobility and making housing unaffordable. Can you address that?
Well, basically, the American Dream Coalition focuses on free market solutions, and that's the general thrust. And, you know, here we are in Sioux Falls. We're a community that strongly believes in the free enterprise system. And, hey, the ideas that I get from the American Dream Coalition fit very, very well into the city government of Sioux Falls.
Do you think our current policies are restricting these areas that they address?
Well, I think there's always areas here in city government we can improve. And from time to time, I try to bring those up. And sometimes my colleagues on the city council agree with me, and sometimes they don't agree. But I think it's really very healthy to have a lot of different ideas brought before the city council, no matter where they come from. This is, once again, as a city council member, I've been to 9 of these American Dream Coalitions. This is nothing new for me. Now, I wish, you know, some of my colleagues on the council would go with me, and hey, I'd really be happy for any of you to come with me.
Councilor Bach.
Here's my concern. This, and because I've looked at the same websites, and I think that some of the others have as well, this particular conference tends to be more focused on Councilmember Stagger's personal beliefs and not as much on city issues as I would like to see them, these sorts of conferences be. And I don't believe city taxpayers should have to fund this trip. I'll be voting no.
Well, if I could...
Councilor Stangers?
Yeah, if I could respond. These present different ideas of how to deal with government. Who cares if some of these ideas are my personal beliefs? Who cares? Because when you go to the National League of Cities, I've been to the National League of Cities, there's a lot of ideas presented there that are not my ideas. But I don't say, no, you shouldn't go because, hey, those are your own personal ideas.
Would anybody want to make a motion on this item?
Move to approve, Karski.
Second, Urbanbach.
There's been a motion to approve this item. It has been seconded. Councilor Staggers is going to recuse himself from this item. Any discussion? Yes, Councilor.
I have trepidation also about approving this, but I'm willing to give Councilor Staggers the benefit of the doubt in this case. I think he has been before. He brought back a report, and we expect a report when he comes back the next time as to what the conference was about. He does have his constituents to answer to about why he feels it's necessary to go. It is our budget. It is a very small part of our budget. And while I have trepidation, I am going to give Councilor Staggers the benefit of the doubt in this case.
A roll call vote, please.
Okay. Council members Rolfing,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
No.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kylie.
No.
That's passed 4-3. Council, any further discussion tonight? Very good. Could I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been a motion to adjourn this meeting. It has been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Sioux Falls. Make it a great night.